everyone, I'm Gemma from Concrete Gems Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make these lovely mittens. Now let me just show you a whole mitten. There we go. So they've got a lovely texture which is made using the even berry stitch, and a nice cuff and lovely long around the fingers to keep you nice and warm, lovely and cozy, really thick fabric. For these ones, I used a yarn from Aldi, which is a store in the UK, if you are in the UK. So it's called So Crafty Aran, and it's a 75% acrylic, 25% wool. But today I'm going to be using Caron Simply Soft, which is 100% acrylic. They're both medium weight wools, yarns, so worsted weight or Aran weight will work well. There's also a matching hat pattern, which is here, which you can make as well if you like. I'll put a link for the hat pattern in the description below, and also there'll be a card somewhere around as well. Today I'm going to be making the small size, which is the 0 to 2 years size. So that's the hat for the 0 to 2 years. The brim over here. That's a hat for the 0 to 2, which is what I make in the other video, in the hat video. So go and find that if you want to make the hat. But today we're going to be making the 0 to 2 years mitten size. So the mittens come in 0 to 2 years, 3 to 6 years, 7 to 10 years, small adult / teen, medium adult, and large adult. So as I say, all of the details are in the written pattern, which you can buy on Ravelry or Etsy, and that's linked below. You can also find the pattern for free to view on the blog, which is also linked below. That has ads on there, which is how I make a few little pennies. So all of the stitches, like the number of stitches and rows and things, are on there. I'm using a 4.5mm hook, and you can use the same or whichever hook you need for the gauge. So the gauge is 13 stitches by 16 rows over this even berry stitch, which I will show you shortly. So make sure you match the gauge, and then we can get started. So for the 0 to 2 years size, we're going to start with a chain of 18. I'll just put a slip knot on my hook. We're going to do 18 chain. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, before I go any further, I should say that I am working in US terminology. If you prefer UK, that's totally fine. There aren't actually many stitches that are different in this pattern, so it's basically just a single crochet in US terms is a double crochet in UK terms. So that's all you need to know. So we've done our chain 18. I'm now going to do a single crochet, which is a UK double crochet, as I just said, into the third chain. So not the second chain, we're going into the third chain, which is slightly unusual, and do a single crochet. But they're going to single crochet in every chain across. Okay, so I've got to the end of the row, and you'll now have 16 single crochets across your row. So then we're going to turn, and we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to skip that first stitch, and we're going to work a berry into the second stitch. So this is how you work a berry. You yarn over, insert into that stitch, yarn over and pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Then we yarn over and go back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull through, and now you've got 5 loops on your hook. we yarn over and we pull through all 5, being careful not to catch any strands of yarn. Then we chain 1 and that secures the stitch. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we need to be careful on subsequent rows that we don't crochet into that chain 1, okay? And then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And then we're going to repeat that all the way across. So yarn over, insert into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull through. Then we yarn over and pull through all 5 stitches, wiggling through, chain 1, then slip stitch into the next stitch. Bury in the next stitch, chain 1, slip stitch in the next stitch. So just continue that all the way across your row. And when you get to the end, you're doing a berry stitch into that final stitch of your row. Caught the yarn there a little bit, and then chain 1, and then we're going to work into the turning chain. Okay, so we're going to do our final slip stitch into the turning chain, which can be a bit fiddly to find both loops of that turning chain, but just wiggle your hook about and I'm sure you'll find it like I have, and do a slip stitch there. Okay, so every row we're going to be skipping the first stitch and then we're going to be working into the final turning chain, okay? And that's how we maintain the same number of stitches on the row. So we turn and you can already see that the berry stitches are starting to pop out. And let's move on to row 3. Let's chain 1. Then if you remember, I said that we need to skip these chain stitches. So we're skipping the first stitch, which is the slip stitch here, and then we are missing out the chain stitch and we're going to do a slip stitch into the top of the berry. So it's this one here. So it looks like you're skipping 2 loops, but you're really skipping 1 stitch and that chain. So then we slip stitch into there, and then we're going to do a single crochet into our slip stitch, which can be a bit tight if you're a tight crocheter, but wiggle your hook about and you'll get in. And then slip stitch into the top of the berry. So we skip the chain and into the top of the berry and single crochet into that slip stitch. Slip stitch into the top of the berry, skipping the chain, single crochet into the slip stitch, and repeat that all the way across. When you get to the last stitch, we're doing the same thing. So we're skipping the chain and then we're slip stitching into the top of the berry. And then we're doing a single crochet into that turning chain. So again, a bit fiddly, but use the point of your hook to kind of hook it. And there you see I've got the 2 loops and do a single crochet. Right, and those rows 2 and 3 are our repeat. So we're going to repeat those for the number of rows that you need to do for your pattern. So it's exactly the same, chain 1, miss that first stitch, and then a berry into that second stitch. And then a slip stitch into the next stitch. And we keep going, repeating that across, remembering that the last stitch goes into that turning chain, and then we turn and we do our slip stitch into the top of the berry, skipping the chain, and then our single crochet into the where the slip stitch was between the berries. Okay, and we literally just repeat that for the number of rows that you need to do. So for the 0 to 2 size, I'm going to be repeating it for 13 rows. Okay, so you end on a not berry row, so on the slip stitch single crochet row, and I will meet you there. You have a few options with seaming it. You can either do a whip stitch, you can do a slip stitch join, or you can use single crochet and join them together. So we're going to fold it in half this way, lengthways, so that the row ends are joined up, and then I'm going to carry on with my yarn, and I'm going to do a slip stitch join here. So you're just going to go through both layers, trying to go through 2 stitches on each layer to make sure it's nice and a secure join, because you don't want your gloves falling apart, do you? So we're going to sew crochet through 4 rows. So just wiggle your hook through and keep going along. It might be a bit tricky to get through the row ends, but just keep fiddling your hook and getting it through those row ends. So you might want to have a look inside to check how you're doing. So 2 berries are 4 rows, so a berry and the row next to it are the 2 rows that you are working towards. So just double check that you're making the right number. Obviously, if you're making a different size, you'll be going through a different number of row ends, and you'll need to check from the pattern on the blog or the PDF pattern how many that you need to go through for that. So I've done my 4 row ends now, and I'm just going to cut my yarn. So fasten off, and you can weave in that end, or you can do them both in a minute. And then we're going to turn and work from the other end. So we're creating the thumb hole in the middle by closing up the space at each end. So we've done 4 row ends on that end, and now we're going to do crochet through 4 row ends on the other end of the mitten to close up that hole. So we're just going to do exactly the same thing here. Join your yarn again and crochet through those row ends. And as I said, you can either use a slip stitch join, or you can use a single crochet join, or you can just use a needle and do a whip stitch. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so that's through my 4 row ends of that part, and now I'm just going to cut my yarn and fasten that off there. So then you should have your little thumb hole left in the middle. It'll be a bit bigger if you're making an adult size. And now it's a good time to weave in your ends. Okay, so I've woven in my ends now and turned it the right way round, and you can see the little thumb hole there. So now we need to make our cuff. So I'm going to join my yarn again in the seam this time. So that just makes sure that it's a nice neat finish on the front of your mitten. So we're going to be working single crochet in the back loops only all around to create a ribbing. So we'll start with 5 chains. Oops. And then we're going to turn and work back along those chains. So we're going to work into the second chain from the hook and into each chain along, doing a single crochet in each chain. So you're going to end up with 4. Obviously, if you're making a different size mitten, check check in the pattern how many chains you need to make, because it's different for different sizes. Obviously the adult glove has a longer cuff on it. And when you get back to the mitten body, you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch along. So this one is the seam for me, so that's a bit tricky to get into, but keep wiggling around and you'll get there. And then we're going to turn and chain 1. Then we're going to be working into the back loops only of each stitch back across. So we're doing a single crochet in the back loops of those 4 stitches that we did before, all the way back to the top. And when we get to the top, we're going to turn and we're going to chain 1. So you can already see the ribbed effect being created. Now we're going to work back down again, doing a single crochet in the back loops again, 4 single crochet back to the bottom of the body, and then we're going to slip stitch into 2 stitches of the mitten body. So this is now the repeat. We go up and down, and every time we come down we slip stitch into 2 stitches of the mitten body. And if you only did 1, that would make a very baggy cuff. If you prefer a tighter cuff, you can of course do 3, slip stitch into 3 stitches even, but I'm doing 2 here. And we just carry on. So you're going up, single crochet in the back loops only, then you turn and chain 1, single crochet in the back loops only, back down, and then slip stitch into those 2 stitches. And repeat that all the way around your cuff until you get back to the start. And there you can see the pattern, and we are back at the beginning. So now we are going to join that last seam together. So I'm going to do a slip stitch join here. I'm going to go through that loop, the back loop, which now becomes the front loop, and then the front loop of that stitch on the other side, and just join them across with slip stitch. So you should have 4 of those stitches, and then we can fasten off our work. So that is our cuff completed. And there's another end that needs weaving in. Okay, so now we just have some edging to do around the thumb opening and around the top. So to do the edging around the thumb, we're going to rejoin our yarn, and we're just going to do a single crochet edging all the way around, just 1 round of single crochet. It's fairly simple, but it can be a bit tricky because you're working into the row ends again and into the seam. So I've joined my yarn in at the seam, just because I prefer to keep all my joins together. And then I'm going to do single crochet into that stitch and into each row end around, and I just do it kind of evenly. It's quite difficult to be very precise going around the opening here because they're quite tricky to get into the stitches, and you kind of have to go where there's a space. So just work your way around. I mean, it's not essential to do an edging around the thumb opening if you don't want to, but I think it neatens it off quite nicely. So I would recommend it if you can. That end's getting in my way as well. I'm making it look more difficult than it is, I think. But take your time, no rush, just keep going around. and then we are back to the beginning. So when you get back to the beginning, you're going to do a slip stitch into that first stitch, and through both legs of the stitch if you can. It was a bit fiddly, but there we go, we got through, and then we are going to just fasten off there. So that is the thumb edging completed, and then we move on to the top edging, and that's a lot easier. Oh, there we go. Look, you can see on the one I've done already. Looks really neat once you weave in all those ends. So the top edging is a lot easier. That is just going into the stitches, so you're not going into row ends anymore. So we're going into stitches, and they're a lot easier to get your hook into. So just keep working around the top edge of your mitten. This is the same for any size now, so we just work around the complete top edge of the mitten and going into each stitch around. See, that stitch is a bit tricky, but most of them should be a lot easier. And I'll just whiz around there quickly just to finish it off. And when we get back to the beginning, we're just going to do a slip stitch into that first stitch again to join, and then our mitten will be completed. And of course you need to make a second mitten for your other hand, and if you want to make the hat, I've said before, you can find the hat tutorial linked somewhere around, and you can also find it in the description below. So I think they look really great as a set together. The pattern includes the pattern for both the mittens and the gloves, so I'd recommend watching both videos as well. So there we go. We need to weave in all those ends, but essentially we are done. Look at it, doesn't it look so cute? There's the other one. They look brilliant together with some little baby hands inside. They'll be super cute. And there's the hat too to go with it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed making your hat and mittens. Please do share the love and share your patterns on socials. Come and find me, Concrete Gems Crochet. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.